Hey, Mindy,
Hey, Frank. Good to
how
see
you
you.
doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, good. So it looks like without without getting too far afield here, looks like we're in for an interesting conversation with Daniel Joseph
This is let me just stop the recording here.
for now. Hey, Molly. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Molly. Hey, Doug.
Frank, hi Mama.
How you doing?
Good.
Glad to hear it.
Frank, we're working through our home buying.
Ah,
Thought we were going to be closed on Friday, but now it's not till tomorrow. So luckily, that means we had a day to take it easy, you know?
good. Yeah, good luck with that. Doug was telling me a little bit about it, and it's really wonderful.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, congratulations. That is just really exciting. Yeah,
Thank you. We're
for
excited.
both of you. And I have to say, I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize you guys were together. And Karen said to me after something, she said, I think it was Flower Community. She said, "Oh, our Doug and Molly are dating." I said, I don't think so. I didn't hear, but it didn't matter because I'm sometimes oblivious to those things. But I'm very happy for both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Did I miss an announcement?
Molly and Doug are buying a home, and they were supposed to close.
Congratulations. Where?
Thank you. In the iron.
Where?
In the Ironbound.
Great. Oh, we'll come and visit you and go out to a restaurant.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's not just a home; it's a compound.
I think we have people coming to look at Molly's apartment,
Hello?
so we're gonna go on mute for a second.
How you doing, Darcy? Good to see you.
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, good to see you. We saw you at
Music.
Music City,
That's-
right? That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That was the last time we saw you.
That was fun.
Yeah,
That was.
that Sunday last event was really good. We're having a screening of the Black Mariah. I don't know, you guys maybe you're aware of it. Now called the Thomas Edison, and maybe we'll talk about it, the Thomas Edison Film Festival, but that's going to be on Tuesday, weather permitting. I don't know, I haven't seen any forecasts, Doug, have you?
Tuesday might be rainy.
Yeah?
But
Well, we have a rain day, so
Yeah.
it's good for the plants. One of the things that's puzzling is nobody seems to know where the list of members is. So I just want to say that we have 6 people here. I am sure that's a quorum because we can't have more members than last year when it was 18 and 1/3 was a quorum. So we're good to go.
Also consider Wayne here in absentia. He's upstairs. He'll be down in a few minutes.
Oh, we have 7.
Yeah.
This is like
7.
That's like Boomtown meeting.
A biblical number, 7.
Yes, yes. A million in our space. Marvelous, marvelous. I'm so pleased. I don't know if Aubrey, yeah, there she is. Hey, Aubrey.
Hi, I'm in the woods, so keep the
woods?
camera off to keep the connection secure.
You're in
All
the
right.
woods. Better than
Yeah,
being
I'm
in
in
the
New
weeds.
Yeah.
Better than in the woods. Yeah. Aubrey, did you see my text that the hat came? It's gorgeous.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. Molly, part of what precipitated Molly and Doug buying this house is that Molly's building where she's living, the building where she has an apartment, is being sold. So I assume its potential buyers are coming through.
So we're wearing masks.
Okay.
Yeah, what?
That's why.
Yeah. So
we're coming to look at the apartment. Hi, Obs.
So
Hi.
yeah, Aubrey said she's in the woods, hence her camera's off. Yeah. So I wanted to. So should we start? We should start, right?
Yeah, let's
Hopefully,
start.
other members will drift in, but we have a fabulous 7 members of our congregation, which is fantastic. So Bill Slazak is singing in the choir at the temple, he being a bi-religious family. So, so we miss him, but he sent the budget. And so I wanted to talk first about on this topic of abundant faith, and really, hey Susan, good to see you.
Hi, Susan.
This is something Molly has been saying for a long time, which is that we have these Faith+Works services, and they're not all great, but some of them are really great, and that we have recorded many of them, and that we ought to do something with these recordings. So we do about 7 actual Faith+Works. Like we do flower communion, we do the annual meeting, we do Seder. So there are 3 that aren't typically like in this Faith+Works format of the 10. So, but there's typically 7 where somebody gives a talk about how they live their life and what their faith is. And we've been doing this since like 2017. So that's like 5 years, 7 a year. That's like 35. And first Doug was recording them, and then Zoom has been recording them. So we have, more or less some amount of these. Not trivial amount. By the way, is anybody else here as a co-host? Doug, would you mind? You're University of Orange. No, you're Doug. Do you mind letting people in if they come?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Great. So Molly has been saying that we ought to do something with these, and so and the other thing is that it seems to me that we've had success beyond our wildest dreams in terms of creating the hub. As Frank can attest, the current budget of the hub is $350,000 for the year, which is 5 times what it was when we started. So, and Darcy was there and Frank was there at all those board meetings when Bill Slazak would say, "This is never going to work. It can't work." It did work, which is pretty amazing. So in terms of taking our faith and putting it into manifesting it in our church, I think it's been amazing. But I've always thought that you need to have, just as your spiritual practice needs to be manifest in your work, you have to have the spiritual practice to do the work, especially in times as difficult as these. So I thought, what is it that would strengthen our spiritual practice? Like we have these great talks, but what should we be doing with them, and how would it help us be prepared to meet these very difficult times that we've been in, that we are going into? So there are a bunch of, a few of them had been transcribed, and I transcribed a few more, and I've been reading them and thinking about them. And I wanted to just share some of what people had talked about, and just to say it's a treasure trove of people's experiences. And this wonderful book called Sources of Our Faith, can you all see it? Sources of Our Faith. Makes the point that there are 6 sources of our faith. The first source is direct experience of the transcending mystery, but another source is people's stories from the hard work of fighting to make things better. So this is in that domain of people's stories about how they live their lives that give us inspiration and hope, and that in the love from which they share this material with us also comforts us. So these talks are full of those great moments. So I wanted to first read a story from Pam's talk, which was in 2018. And I had transcribed this a while ago, Pam Shaw died in September 2019. And so I wanted to share the transcript with her friends and family, to whom it brought great comfort. Um, and so one of the stories she told was this thing she loves, this, the spiritual clarity principle. I had never heard the story. She said, I read this book. She always talked about this, and she got it out of a book. But the story she told had a little bit of backstory, which is that she knew a guy who was a hoarder, and he had to clear out his stuff. And so he gave her a book. And this book was called Spiritual Serendipity. And she was a little bit suspicious of this book. And she said the first part of it was weird. But then it got to this story about the spiritual clarity principle. So this man who was a minister, he and his wife, he'd been invited to take up a new job in England. And he'd made a list of all the reasons why he should go and all the reasons why he shouldn't go. And it seemed like he should go, so he said, okay. But so he called the people and told them he was leaving, she said. As soon as he did that, he got this horrible feeling in the pit of his stomach, like this was the wrong thing to do. Then he got a phone call saying the offer had been taken back, that he wasn't, there was some mistake, and he didn't have the job at all. He said, okay, I need to go to plan B. Then he came up with a plan B. When he wrote plan B, which was staying there and changing a few things around, this and that, to better provide for his family, which was growing, he said he had this feeling of peace and light. He said that was the answer. He says that's when he codified this thing that he called the spiritual clarity principle. And then she went on to say that she, how she really believes this and how she used it. And she had a friend who was working at a job. He was trying to get his life together. He was an artist. He was working at Urban Outfitters. And he was an alcoholic who was just newly sober, and it was his first sober job. And he took the job, she said, because he wanted to be one of the window display people. And they had him stacking pillows in the back and doing all this stuff and blasting music. He hated it. He hated it. He called me up and he said, I can't go in there. I can't go in there. But my sponsor's going to be so upset if I don't keep this job. It's my first job. I don't have another job. I said, spiritual clarity principle. I said, think about going back to that job right now. How do you feel? He goes, I could tell. He was just anxious and just a wreck. I said, okay, think about never having to go back there again. How do you feel? And I could hear it. He was like, oh, yeah. I said, okay, you have to quit. I don't know. You should not just quit. You've got to do the responsible thing, but you have your answer. You've got to get out of there. So she concluded he didn't burn bridges. He wasn't a joke. He quit responsibly and never looked back. So this spiritual clarity principle, she just goes on to say, I don't know how it works. I know that it works. I know there's a whole bunch of things now that I rely on that I can't see. Sometimes I can't even describe. I can't prove, except in my experience, what I've lived through. So I personally thought spiritual clarity principle, is one of those weird things. It makes no sense. But many spiritual people do talk about, sort of the heart and the gut as like more the organs of spiritual knowledge, not our brain, not what we think. So it's not our pros and cons list, but how we feel in our hearts. That is really the telling thing. And so it's sort of one of those like just remarkable gems that's in our transcripts or in our recordings of talks that we have heard. Bob Fullilove spoke to us in March of 2020, so just as the COVID pandemic was getting started, and he was talking about his experience teaching in the prisons. And he was comparing what it was like to teaching at Columbia University in Mailman School of Public Health. He said, I get paid to teach the children who have been headed for graduate school since before they were born, to be in a setting where folks suddenly realize something about themselves and their potential, where they're suddenly awakened to what it means to actually go outside of yourself to see who you are and what you're about. And so he's trying to make this contrast between, this classroom full of Ivy League graduate students who are all on their laptops, playing games or watching a video while he's talking to being in the prison where there's this sort of absolute, there's only a blackboard and some chalk, and this absolute, like almost like lust for knowledge. I mean, it's almost like being back in a theological setting, because whatever the topic might be, what you are part of witnessing, what you're a part of developing is an awareness, a belief in self, a belief in agency, a belief in possibilities. That has a great deal to do not just with being educated, but looking at the health of the communities that you're from. Having sudden insights about what you're learning about community health probably contributed to some of the issues that drove you to prison in the first place. And having a sense that there's something you can do about it, that you may know more about what's going on in these dynamics than many of the scientists, gives my students a sense of empowerment, a possibility that I continue to find to be truly inspiring. I'm someone who is often described in my lectures as someone who gives sermons rather than talks, but it's deeply moving to give a sermon to people who can really feel. That's just like in terms of the, where do you find your own enlightenment and inspiration? And I don't think most of us would think, well, I'll go teach in a prison and that will be where I'll find enlightenment and inspiration and a different way to look at the world. But that was definitely what Bob found. It was, it wasn't in teaching these privileged kids who had everything. It was in going to this other setting where, people had nothing. And his pride and joy in, what they were able to do with themselves, just sort of beyond words. And it's very touching in that talk because he talks about one of his favorite students, a guy who had come, got a bachelor's, come out of prison, got a master's of public health, was just so bright and so articulate and such a good leader, and who died of COVID a brief time later. So, these stories are all, the people who come to talk to us are sort of sharing. I mean, that young man obviously hadn't died of COVID at the point at which Bob was talking. That was yet to come. He was just talking about how proud he was. But Bob has grieved that young man very, very deeply. So many people were dying, and it was such a difficult time that in October 2020, we had or in the fall of 2020, we had a set on collective recovery, which included Sarah Townley, Leslie Rennis, and Lourdes Rodriguez. And I just want to share one story from Lourdes's talk. So Lourdes made the point that, I believe she's quoting James Comer, the Black theologian, and who said that if you're, that Jesus goes to the temple and he says, the Bible is about helping the poor, and there's going to be somebody here to help, and that's me, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing freely. And so this Black theologian is saying that's what the Bible is about, and Lourdes is taking that up as a Puerto Rican raised in the Catholic religion and somebody who's devoted her life to public health. She's saying that if we aren't thinking in every way about how to help the poor, then we aren't coming from a Christian place. So one of the stories she told in a series of 3 was about her son. And when he was born, her neighbors gave her a silver spoon so that he, would be a baby who was, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so to speak. But instead, this made her cry because she didn't want her son to be that kind of person. And there was a show on TV she really despised, sort of how does somebody act who has that kind of privilege? She said, so I cried because I had seen happy poverty as I was growing up in Puerto Rico with the biggest family, and the kind of poverty where you don't realize you're poor. And I had seen unhappy influence. I had seen unhappy poverty, which is when the conditions of adversity had been so devastating that it really breaks you down and it just shatters you. And I had also seen happy affluence, where you grow up with this warped sense of understanding of the world. So I had seen happy poverty and unhappy poverty, happy affluence and unhappy affluence. And that silver spoon made me think that Raj and I needed to be really intentional about how we wanted to raise Diego and his siblings. So when he got to be 15, and it's during COVID, she said you could see the difference. She talked about her neighbors. Their neighbor's lawn had not been mowed. She said you could see the difference between our tall grass and their tall grass. So Raj says we should cut the lawn. It's Pastor Leland who lives next door. So they went in and spoke with Pastor Leland, and he said, oh, no, don't worry about it. The guy that does my front lawn, he has been sick for a while, so we've just been waiting for him to get better. These days, in the middle of the pandemic, when somebody who does your lawn gets sick, the likelihood that they're going to be sick for a while is high. So we asked for Pastor Leland's blessing and went ahead, and Rogelio and Diego mowed the lawn. It was 90 degrees that day, right? This is fall in Austin. And when it's 90 degrees, you just want to get in and out. You just want to do the minimum. You just want to cut the lawn and go back into the AC. And Raj and Diego did our lawn, and they did Pastor Leland's lawn at the same time, because that was Diego's to do at that moment. And we wanted him to understand that even in the small things that help make community, that help show love to your neighbor, where you can show love to your neighbor like cutting the lawn is a valid way to show love to your neighbor. So with that, I just want to say that I invite you to think about Reverend James Comer's writing as a guidance for your life, and to think about what is yours to do. Think about how any public health work that's not related to the liberation of the poor in a society is not Christ public health, and any public health that is indifferent to the theme of liberation is not Christian public health. Any philanthropy that is not related, any accounting that is not related to the liberation of the poor, any work that you do, teaching at a university that is not related to the poor is not Christian. And we're, I would say, broadly speaking, that Unitarians aren't Christian, yet I think we're very committed to understanding the problems of the oppressed and to being part of social justice. And so this call to what is social justice, that we have to think about the poor in everything we do, is, I think, very remarkable guidance. And Lourdes is somebody I admire greatly, and I think that she really thinks about how to do that in every corner of her life. And it's sort of what's interesting is what makes these talks precious in a way is they're not very self-conscious. People are, it's just sort of a little bunch of us gathered on Zoom. People aren't trying to be high and mighty or make a very formal speech. It's not their Nobel Prize acceptance speech. It's just a Faith+Works with us. And so they're very intimate in what people share. And yet the intimacy is, I think, one of the things we desperately need. Not only now because we're isolated from each other in COVID, but all the time, that it's in the interior of myself that I find the strength to move forward in very difficult times. So the last one I want to talk about is the Faith+Works that Molly and Michael Lally did. You'll remember that this was called What's There to Be Glad About, and it was Pollyanna for Cynics. And Molly read a great excerpt from Pollyanna. I was rereading it today, and of course it was like a 5-hanky. How often do you read a transcript and you have to have 5 tissues? It was like, oh, it's so touching. It's so beautiful. Molly had chosen a series of excerpts that really carry the whole story of Pollyanna, an orphan girl who has the discipline of looking for what is there to be glad about in every moment. It was like walking down the street and it's raining. She said, well, it wasn't raining yesterday. I can be glad about that. And even, she's crippled in an accident, can't move her legs, and she's really having a hard time finding what to be glad about. And finally, but many people send her messages that her teaching them how to be glad helped them and they want to thank her. And she finally says, well, I can be glad that I had my legs because I couldn't have done that if I hadn't been able to go see them. So it's just remarkable. But it's the practice of it, right, that Molly is helping us see in her reading. And then Michael Lally, who's, a poet and, Hollywood kind of person, but in his heart is very Pollyanna. He says, because he's the commentator on Molly's reading, he said, because the source of my joy, and I believe of happiness anyway, I worked in Hollywood. I had my modicum of success. Believe me, we all know having the money does not guarantee happiness. Having the fame does not guarantee happiness. Having the right partner in the home and your car, and yet none of that stuff does. What guarantees happiness isn't even all you people loving me. If I'm depressed, what I now call deep disappointment, because it makes me focus on the source, for me, I'm not a doctor, I'm not talking about that, just saying, I use the expression. Everybody in the room says, we love you, Michael. Might make me feel a teeny weeny little bit better, but not very much. But if I open my heart and let myself love you, I'm fucking happy. He apologizes repeatedly for cursing all the time. It's pretty obvious, it seems to me. It's in all the great spiritual books, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't see it through all my intellect and complexity and emotional roller coaster and fireworks and all the rest. All I have, that's why people like to look at, this is me, but it's my opinion. It's why people like to look at those little kitties on Zoom and why most people respond to babies. Some people not, but most of us see a little baby, coochie, coochie, coo, and we feel suddenly relieved of all the tension and anxiety and depression for a few seconds because our heart opened to the baby and our heart opens to the kitten. At least that's what I feel. So I got to practice keeping my heart open. And I do it by looking for the glad, like Pollyanna. I've been living in that apartment in an old house in downtown Maplewood for the last 15 years. And every morning, because I'm right next to restaurants, every morning at 5, I think it doesn't happen on Sundays, I can't remember. Every morning at 5, the garbage trucks come. And my initial response is to be aggravated. God damn those trucks waking me up. But I train myself to go. As soon as I start to feel aggravated, I go, oh, isn't it cool? I live in an urban environment right in downtown Maplewood. It's kind of romantic. And I can go back to sleep anyway. I'm an old guy. I just wanted to lift up that we are, it's been an extraordinary series. And I think, it comes around every month and sometimes we're scratching our heads. Who do we know that we can invite? You know what I mean? You get into the busyness of putting it on and we forget to appreciate what we have. It's almost like we don't have a feedback loop. And I am sure, whoever was all the ministers that we had in Frank's Faith+Works, which is just a beautiful history of the church. We went through all of them, from Tony to Yobanzi to Daryl to Gordon, that set. I'm sure we didn't get printed copies of their sermons and study them. It was sort of, you go to church, you listen, you go home. But these are very difficult times, and whatever we did before, I don't think it's enough to get us through. And so the question I want to pose to us is, how might we take this wonderful thing we have invented of Faith+Works and use it in new ways to strengthen our practice, strengthen our faith, strengthen our love, so that we can be an even more wonderful spiritual community. I think we're quite a great spiritual community, but we could be even more wonderful, possibly. That's the question that I wanted to pose and what I wanted to share. And thank you, Molly, for raising this issue over and over. I'm opening the floor.
I
You know,
don't
No, go ahead.
have a comment about what we do about more, but I really appreciated the selections that you shared. It was such a reminder of how much is within them, and it made me feel so grateful and blessed, as they say, that I've been able to be a part of hearing all those people have this opportunity to reflect. So thank you. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I guess when we started this, as Hub was developing, I never thought that the spiritual part that I found to some degree in the First Unitarian Church would be transformed into something like this. And it sort of reminds me, not of all of them, but of some of those StoryCorps stories that you hear on NPR. And some of them are just, like a grandmother and her grandchild come in and they talk about their lives together, or some incident that occurred, or just, I mean, in that short vignette, you are just moved. And I think this has the same, this has the same kind of effect. I guess the issue is, I mean, you put it together nicely in these selections, and I think we enjoy them at the time that they're happening, but to really get the whole sense of the whole thing, I guess it would be good if we could come up with some way to actually record the voices of the people who are saying them, and glean from them, pull out from them those interests. I mean, that takes a lot of editing, and I don't know, I'm not sure if we can do that, but they would be good to have. And I think they might be, inspirational in a lot of ways. That, I mean, if we could use them in other settings, I'm not sure. Yeah, right. Like a podcast. I don't know, but I just really liked hearing them in this kind of, this setting of excerpts. Really nice.
Almost something, this is like a simple, not simple, but something we could do. I mean, and thanks to Doug also for always making sure we recorded them when we were in church, because it's amazing that we do have recordings of everything from even before Zoom, and transcripts, right? What was I going to say? Oh, this recap was so interesting. I mean, it's almost something we could build into our annual calendar of inviting someone to sort of like do this type of reflection, whether it's on like what were the faith and works of the year, or inviting people to sort of dig through the transcripts and see what stuck with them. That could be a really interesting thing, just as a simple way of keeping us engaged with past experiences that we could do easily once a year. I mean, it's lovely to think about what else we can do with all the transcripts and recordings and stuff, but that seems like a simple thing and a nice time to take that moment for reflection. Because even from this year, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like, Lord, well, that wasn't this year. Actually, my sense of time is off, like everyone else's, I'm sure. But anyway, thinking about all that we've experienced, yeah, you forget, like we move so quickly. So just taking that beat, and it was cool to see it sort of reflected through what was speaking to you. It'd be interesting to see like what had stuck out, what might stick out. Like for Darcy, it could be a cool kind of thing to do as a regular practice once a year.
It could be that we do it every year for our annual meeting. That would be fun.
I think that could be cool, and then just rotate who does it.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about when you were talking, Mindy, as it happens, we were with another couple last night. We were talking about church and how people don't go to church anymore, et cetera, et cetera. And just thinking how people do not like to be preached at anymore. People do not like to be lectured. It's hard for the expert to maintain that, up above. So this, what Frank was saying about it, sort of like StoryCorps, I really like that because I'm a big fan of that stuff. That is just kind of engaging, it's honest. I was also wondering, Beacon Press or UUA, or, the Unitarians are always publishing things, if you look at the, Beacon Press catalog or whatever, there's a zillion of these, prayers and meditations, thoughts and wisdom. And I don't know. I mean, I wonder if some publication could be put together that might, somebody might be interested in publishing. I mean, it would be like a spiritually, religiously, Unitarian oriented press, obviously. But I was thinking about that. I mean, there are all these little, like you're going to go to GA, Wayne, right? And there's going to be like a book area, and there's a zillion of these books.
Yep.
And it's like,
Yep.
this stuff is as good as little meditations, you know, in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Someone would have to edit it. I mean, someone would have to put it together, and it would be, you know, someone's interpretation or, you know, their ideas about the compilation and the selections that they've made. I mean, I think it, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's like, Karen got a book from her sister-in-law on something about blessings. And it was just some ideas of almost similar to what you were talking about, but you know, the thoughts and ideas of this one particular poet. And it was really very nice. Something, yeah. So I like that idea. And maybe we could make some money from it too.
You never know.
You know? But I think do it, you know, like next year, someone else take on the year's Faith+Works and review them and pull out what they think is interesting and present it at the next annual meeting. I think that'd be cool.
Well, a thought I had is I'm somebody who really likes like daily word of the Buddha, all that kind of stuff. The Buddha ones I really like very much because they're usually weird and you don't know what they mean. So they're good to think about. I like something like that comes like once a day. So another thought I had was, could we take little excerpts and have our own like daily word of first UU? So that was been on my mind. But I mean, I love the idea that, yeah, it does have that. I mean, they do have that story core. It's just somebody talking to us. It's like we're all it's really like living room, right? It's not formal. It's not preaching. Just sort of, these are my struggles. And this is how I put it together. And everybody puts it together slightly differently. But I think, yeah, like a poem a day. Yeah, like that kind of thing. I think everybody puts it together slightly differently, but it revolves around, you know, a set of common themes, which I would hesitate to list. But one of them is definitely surprise. Like Pam was surprised to get this weird book, but it had this great principle. Or Bob is surprised to go into prisons, and that's where he found his true students. So one of them is definitely surprise. And another one is always love. Like, can you love a little bit more than you thought you could? Can you open your heart? That's just to be superficial. I think a deeper study would be useful. And I really appreciate Darcy's point. I don't think anybody wants to be preached to. Yeah, there's a lot of grief and loss, right? We've been through a lot of grief and loss. And the thing is, these talks are all through this terrible period. So that's interesting too. Nobody wants to be preached to, but we really do need consolation. And so somebody saying, okay, this is how I'm doing it, is helpful. So it's sort of, can we just share with each other in a way that has, one hesitates to say wisdom, to just, this is how I'm doing it. That maybe that's what we need in this time. And in that way, I think in that way, if we become more conscious, like, to hear a story and to appreciate the lessons of it, I don't know in what way we do that, then it becomes even more helpful to us. Darcy, you could just blurt out. You don't have to type in the chat. Darcy might like to.
Well, I'm on Wayne's computer, so I don't know how anything works.
Just blurt it. Just say. Is that?
I'm fine.
you're good to go.
I wasn't planning, I've said what I've said for the moment.
Okay. Okay. Doug, did you look like you were leaning in?
Yeah, no, just yeah. I just like the sense that I think you said something like everyone's gonna kind of see, every like you did today, Mindy, and pulling these excerpts together. Everyone's gonna do that differently, and there just seem to be so many possibilities where, I like this idea of sort of deeper study, and I think the little sort of publications idea could be very beautiful, but obviously there are so many ways to do that. And in a way, maybe that's an invitation to each of us, is to think about what we are excited to see. And then, it's like maybe we can imagine, like one of us might really imagine what it would be like to have like a little sort of poem a day, like, a bit of wisdom a day thing, and can take that on. Someone else might have a very clear memory of Robert Sember's talk from all those years ago and be like, I'd really like to sort of like spruce that transcript up and make it available, and so on and so forth. It seems like there's a lot of things that seem really nice to do. And there's an element of like, how do we do it? But I think if it sort of is just coming from, if there's something that you feel like would be really cool, then you can sort of carry that forward and offer that as a, like, again, it's like everyone could do this end of year meeting thing, but maybe throughout the year also there's an invitation to folks to take on a little project that's a sort of a deeper study of a theme or a specific talk or something, and that, if we have a little extra money at the church, we can use that to offer sort of some production support around it. But that becomes like a form of deeper study that church members can take on and share with the congregation, and, potentially might produce a little booklet or a little bit of edited audio or whatever.
So then one thing is us thinking through, where do these live, right? That we can all access it. So when we feel so called, they're kind of there, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty simple, right? We could just put it on a, whatever the first UU email is, maybe there's a Gmail drive or something, or G drive. We could upload it to.
Maybe we could segue from the sort of faith part of this meeting to the annual meeting. Would that be okay?
To the what? Wait, to the what part of the meeting?
The annual meeting.
The business meeting.
Yeah.
The business,
Sure.
the business.
Sure.
Great.
Good by me. I think it's great, that I think without necessarily having been much recently, I do feel Faith+Works has a distinctive, identity that's different from what a conventional UU congregation does. One thing, I've had a strong feeling at the beginning that there was an identity linking theme, whether directly announced or not, in terms of speakers like, if I remember right, apologies if I'm confusing things, Michael Lally and others, and sort of themes of working through hard times, recovery, 12-step movements, and cool, and so I had a certain sense things were linked. And one thing to think about, whether this would be a good idea or not, is there's some kind of like the mention of surprise or mystery, is there a theme of miracle, mystery, surprise, or is there a theme of sort of radical community, radical subcultures that could be announced or just discussed, mentioned to speakers in advance, so their remarks kind of, in a way play off that for a given period, 6 months or a year or whatever. I think that can be something that can sort of give a sort of thematic kind of sense of, we're telling stories, people's stories, and then it's sort of linked, as I felt a lot of early Faith+Works things were, to a theme. Anyway, just keep up the work.
We have a lot of the work on picking speakers happens in Grant Club, because there's a lot of church members and friends at Grant Club. In fact, pretty much everybody at Grant Club is a member or a friend. So we talk about it a lot there. And there's always a theme, but not a theme as vague as mystery. I mean, or as abstract. There's more like the theme in the fall this year was let's make this place as dope as possible.
Right, right, right. Just like a jazzier version of, conventional UU I'm used to, like emerge, deepen, transform, or whatever, our brothers and sisters in Montclair, where I spend a lot of time. And so there's that. And then there's stuff that cuts through more, whatever it is.
Well, so with everybody, I'm going to call the meeting to order, the business meeting. Thank you all for attending. Lovely to have a quorum. And I want to, so there are two parts to this. The first is really the president's report. And so I'm going to, if you don't mind, I put the president's report and the treasurer's report in the chat so that you can download them if you like. And this talk was basically my report, which is that we've had our usual series. And I worry a little that attendance has been a little lower than in previous years, but one time I raised this with Doug and he said, maybe we don't have to worry about that, which I was like, we have to worry about that everywhere else. Can we just go to church and not worry about that? And I do think that churches get obsessed about the membership, and maybe that's not the thing to think about. And maybe, so it seems to me that the thing to think about is, are we taking care of one another? Which is, so that's my report is really, we're the faith part of the Faith+Works, and faith needs support. It's abundant because, it's really abundant because the community is strong. Are we doing a good job at that? And that's why I thought really we have this collective experience of these Faith+Works talks. I would guess none of us has been to all of them, but we've been to some, and so we know, and we invented this thing. So how do we use it to our best advantage? So that's the question that I'm putting before the congregation. But Bill Slazak isn't here, so Frank, perhaps you'll help me. And I just want to share my screen for a sec to talk about the treasurer's report. And this is relevant because, for two reasons. So one is that we pledged, we said we would raise $2,400, and only $500 shows up as of May 17th, but we have gotten contributions from Darcy and Aubrey and me that aren't yet reflected here. And I know that this is Frank's contribution. Thank you, Frank. So I believe we will come close to making the $2,400 that we are trying to make, or we'll make it. But we also have income from our investments. So this is the income from our investments, and our expenses have been low. So assuming these are the actuals, so we actually are going to end the year with nearly $3,000, but it'll be more because we have more contributions than that. So one of the questions that we might consider, everybody has this, so I'm going to stop the share. Is that okay? Or do you like?
Oh, before you do that, Mindy, I just want to mention one thing that will adjust this, and this is something that we're working on with Hub. So if you recall, during the course of this past year, we separated the liability insurance. Hub has its own liability and directors and officers insurance, and the church has its own liability and directors and officers insurance. And even though Hub is doing all of the activity and managing all of managing the real estate, managing the programming, etc., in order to continue as a Unitarian congregation, we have to continue. We own the buildings, and the largest part of that liability insurance is the buildings. And so even though the activities, the majority of the activity that goes on is directed by Hub, the fact that they take place on the property of the church means that there is exposure and liability on the part of the church. So as a result, the lion's share of that insurance is the church policy, which is somewhere around $5,000. The Hub policy is somewhere around $2,400. So one of the things that we talked about doing is maintaining those policies as they are, because the church does in fact own the property. We're not going to transfer the church property, or we're not going to, the Hub is not going to take over that property. It's going to stay with the church, but we could share in that cost, so that going forward, we're planning that the Hub will pay more of that insurance and the church will pay less of it. And we're not exactly sure what that split's going to be, but I can tell you that there will be additional expenses under our expenses for our liability insurance. So that was the only thing I wanted to, we do have it there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it showing, I don't know if that's showing the split.
That's also only showing 1,600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
I think was, sorry, I highlighted all that. I was just trying to highlight that box actually. Yeah, it's showing 1,600, but I don't think the split has been decided, but it will be shortly. But
Frank had said it's 5,000 for the church, 2,500 for the Hub. So that's 7,500. And then where is this projection coming from then if that amount is 7,500? Like, what was our liability insurance last year?
I think it was somewhere around 5,000, 5,400, 5,200, something like that.
So is this a projection for a quarter, or?
That was I don't know what that 1640 means, honestly. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be higher than that.
But why wouldn't we say we'll take 10% of the cost?
Well, I mean, a part of it could be.
Hub has $350,000 and we have 10, not even 10, we have 8. So why should we have to carry that much? Let's say we'll take 10%. That's very generous on our part.
Take 10% of the cost of the combined policies premiums. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's fine.
Does Hub manage all the rentals as well, like the churches that rent through? Okay, then I guess that does make sense.
And all of in fact, the rents go to Hub. They used to go to First Church, but they now go directly to Hub.
Okay.
So that's, so we'll be looking at that number and probably making an adjustment. And I think if everyone agrees, it'll be a percentage of the total of the two premiums.
So perhaps we can should we have a motion to, first of all, approve that we authorize you to negotiate 10% of the cost for us, 10% or less? We'd be happy with 5% too.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Someone wants to second that motion or make the motion?
You have to make the motion, or somebody has to make the motion.
I mean, I think 10 is good, but we do want to make sure we are supporting, right? Like this, we are saying that the Hub is the works part of Faith+Works, correct? Like that had been how we conceptualized this partnership. So
That's right.
10% makes sense to me.
Okay.
So in that case, I second the motion for 10%.
I don't think anybody made the motion. We'll say you made the motion. Would somebody second Aubrey's motion for 10%?
I'll second the motion.
Thanks. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks. Motion passes unanimously. Susan, are you taking notes? Thank you so much. I would also like to propose that if there is surplus, we might make a new category and think about it as part of supporting our Faith+Works. Maybe we could put it in celebrations and music. No, that's something else. so that we could have a little bit of money. This may end up with us having a little bit of money we could use for transcribing more. We only have 4 or 5 transcripts.
That could even be a subcategory under office and administration, right? Transcription and online storage.
Would you? Yes, it could be.
I think that's a very smart idea.
Okay, great. So it looks, so if we support 10% of a $5,000 insurance policy, then that is $700 in this line for insurance, right? Or proposed, instead of 2,000 should be 700. And then we could have this other line. What did you call it, Aubrey?
It would maybe be 2 lines, like it would be online storage and then transcription.
Okay.
But like for U of O, for instance, those are all in, no, that's not true, actually. Never mind. But yeah, those could be the 2 lines.
Okay, then we have 2 new
Did you
lines.
say in an office category? Is that what you put it in?
Office and admin. I mean, the thing for U of O, when we do transcription, we put it in contract services. But, you know, I think here, I think it's fine that it would be under the G&L account 3160 office and administration, just as a sub item. Because presumably online storage would also be used for office and administration, right? Like, do we have
Yeah.
a Google Drive? We, you know.
So I think that we're going to be carrying forward some money from this year to the, let's say $2,000 if we agree to 700 for insurance. So we're carrying forward 2,000. So how much would you suggest for online storage? Is 50 a year good enough?
We pay for 2, what is it? Maybe 2 terabytes. We pay 10 a month.
Okay, so 120 for that. And then the rest of that 2,000 for transcription, which gives us about a little over 1,800, which means we can, you know, transcribe the, you know, whichever ones we would like to see transcribed. And then yeah, so there you have it. Any other, can we have a motion to approve those suggestions to the budget, if that everybody agrees?
Is this for the transcription and
Online storage for the
We
20.
need we need a separate motion for that?
I think so, because we're creating new lines and putting some money in them.
Well, I move to use our surplus to make 2 additional sub-items under office and administration for online storage and transcription.
Anybody second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I
Carries unanimously. All right. So with these adjustments, can we approve the proposed FY budget, FY 22-23 budget? Can I get a motion to approve the budget?
can we say and then Bill will give us an update when we have those adjusted for the updated contributions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And does our fiscal year end June 30th?
Yes.
So there's still a chance for people to give.
Yeah, I had a question. I'm still really confused as to, did we figure out PayPal?
Yes, we did figure out PayPal. It's now connected to our bank account.
Great. Is someone able to put the PayPal link in the chat? Or was I couldn't find an email with it, but maybe it's just missing in my inbox somewhere.
It's not, but we will send that out.
Okay.
That would be good. Yep.
So maybe then we just want like a June 30th report or you know, July 10th report or something from Bill.
Yeah, and end of the year update.
But with that said, I motion to approve the budget as it stands.
As amended.
As amended.
Yeah. Okay. Second?
a second?
All those in favor?
I
Great. Marvelous. Well, you see, we did put in this budget another 2,400 in contributions. So there you have it. And the last thing that we have to do is approve election of officers and board members. Lori Sutherland stepped down as a member of the board, but Myrna has agreed to serve. So otherwise the board will stay the same. So so it's Frank, perhaps you can help me.
Sure. So you're doing fine.
Thanks. I just forgot who the the order of the officers. Wait.
So you're president, I'm vice president. Who do we have as secretary?
I think you're also secretary,
Yeah.
but delegate a lot of those duties to Susan.
Yeah.
Frank.
And treasurer is Bill Slazak, and then Doug and Myrna serve as the trustees.
So should we,
Still on the board?
Oh, and Camille is also a trustee.
Who is? Who's also a trustee?
Camille.
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 Oh, Camille, kind of. Okay.
Me.
She's Charlie's wife, Susan.
Okay.
She serves from France, which is really cool.
Right.
So may I have a motion to approve that slate? Unless somebody would like to be nominated from the floor. I know Darcy's just like, that is your.
I move to
You
approve
move?
that slate.
Do we have a second?
Officers and trustees.
Great. A second?
Second,
I second.
Wayne, somebody, Aubrey?
What?
Aubrey. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Great. I think that concludes our business. Unless
Good business, Mindy.
Yeah, nice work. But do we want to talk about Susan's transition?
yes, we should mention that.
Okay. You want me to talk about that, or do you want to talk about that?
Well, I could talk about it. That Susan has been with us this year, and is brilliant. She's a genius, but not at tech stuff. And our job is tech stuff. Too much tech stuff. So she's going to step down, and in the interim, Karen is going to help us. And also, one of the things that we
Oh,
discovered.
Myrna.
I'm Myrna.
Hey,
Myrna, we just elected you to the board.
oh, thank you, thank you. And congratulations to me.
Yeah,
I hope I
congrats,
can be an
Mama.
asset.
Got that covered.
You are.
Okay.
So one of the things that we discovered in Susan beating her head against the wall was she was beating her head against the wall of really ridiculous technology. For example, we have a members and friends mailing list that only has 84 names on it, but it's impossible to update. And it's very arcane, and it's just a horrible, horrible system from some other generation. And so I think Karen and Doug and I will work on we want to get a new website that can be easily updated, and a list that we can add people to, because I think one of the problems is that we're not communicating with anybody about what we're doing. So we're going to do that over the summer. Then by then, Susan will probably want to come back and work for us more because it won't be hard.
Everything will get straightened out. You're right.
Yeah, I'll get over my nervous breakdown first.
Karen will just whip everything into shape, and then Susan will be able to come back. And also, I do hope that Susan will work with us as we develop these ideas for this works material, because.
And I just want to add, the little bit of, and well, working with Susan has really been enjoyable, and she's very open and willing to learn and to share and to take on things, even when they might be a little more than she's ready to handle.
Thank you, Frank.
But she has done that with just with grace and with wonderful sincerity. So thank you for what you. So.
Thank you.
Susan's
And
a blessing.
Thank you, Murdoch.
For sure.
So then, Karen, I think, and you guys can talk a little more detail, but you have a meeting scheduled for.
We haven't nailed it down, have we?
No, we haven't.
Kind of in the vicinity of Wednesday.
Right. Okay. So Karen is on board and waiting to hear from you on that. So.
And Holly too, I think.
And yeah, probably
Yeah.
helpful. And Doug.
And did you see Aubrey wrote in the chat that she could join too if you need.
Thank you, Aubrey. That would be great. I
If
think our first meeting with Karen will just be to start the transfer, but we do have to bring together a tech meeting. So.
Plus, I'm meeting with, this is probably apropos, I'm meeting with Charlie next week, like Tuesday or Wednesday, to pull all of the Zoom recordings of all of the everything and put them somewhere, like in the hub's Google Doc, maybe. I don't know, he'll figure it out so that they're all one place. Everybody knows where they are. So that's what we're going to work on.
Which is going to be great.
Because I understand if you leave them on Zoom long enough, they disappear, right? I mean, they can't stay on Zoom forever.
They used to be
It fills up. The space fills up.
Yeah, okay.
That said,
But
we have a lot on there, I think well over the limit, and that like I'm working through our backlog of Zoom recordings, but we're way over the limit and they're still all there and have been for months.
Oh, okay, good.
Which isn't great. I'm working on it, but I don't think.
I mean, also though, when that meeting happens, Susan, it might be good to tell Charlie that the church has elected to get a Google Drive that then would have space for all the Faith+Works. So that
So we have elected to get a Google Drive for the church?
Yes.
I didn't know
or
that.
some online storage. It just happened just now in this meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Susan, just put it in the hub for now. Just, it's fine. We'll
Okay. Okay, so we'll put it in the hub for now. All right.
And Susan, Zoom usually warns you before they delete a file, so
Okay, good.
hopefully.
Well, would they warn me? They would warn who?
I think we're good though.
We're good. Okay.
But let's get them out of there because
We should.
It's just, they should be somewhere so that everybody can get them. If somebody wants to take on 5 years and do something with it, they should be able to accessible.
exactly. Sort of, you don't want to have a treasure trove and just let it be lost.
Right.
We wouldn't
I've
feel.
done that before on hard drives. It's a real bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. Did we all just have a collective sigh at things we've lost? Collapsed? Listen,
A random thought. Can I just put something in people's minds? This is what I don't know. But how do we, Frank, you might know this. Like, how do we get Charles Laughlin? He was fantastic. And if we ever have an opportunity, this was like an intern we had who was studying to be a Unitarian minister. And he helped transcribe a bunch of Faith+Works. And he was really cool. Anyway, if we ever have an opportunity for another Charles Laughlin, we should say yes, because it was really, would be fun if somebody could support us through our efforts of kind of like digging into our past transcripts, or if somebody who's like studying this wants to spend some time with our abundant Faith+Works. Anyway, that's all I wanted.
where are those transcripts?
Doug knows where they are.
I do not know where those are.
Whoops. Someone will find. Really? Not the ones Charles Laughlin? We
I
can.
have no idea.
Huh. Well, maybe
The
Charlie
first
knows.
person I would ask would be Charlie.
Yeah.
Susan, can you put that on your list to ask Charlie? Does he know where the transcripts made by Charles Laughlin are?
Okay. How do you spell his last name?
L-O-F-L-I-N.
L-O-F what?
L-I-N.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
not wrong in that, right? He
No, he
transcribed. Okay.
I think he got all of them, if not a lot of them, transcribed. And we should put those in the same place that we put all the recordings.
Now, those transcriptions are Faith+Works also?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless they're just in the same folder that I used to upload all the recordings to.
Uh-oh.
Let me take a look. Ooh.
Does doesn't Zoom transcribe if you ask it to?
Well, you can enable the closed captioning, Susan, but it's not very precise.
Okay,
But it's not post the session. It's during the session.
but if you set it up to do that, it's still not precise. What it's doing is closed caption stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of messy.
Okay, so that's not necessarily good as somebody doing it.
It's not, because sometimes it can really be off.
Okay,
But it's free. It's easy to do. I
It's
just
worthwhile because it can also be brilliantly off. It can create some real gems.
did you find the files,
yeah.
Doug? No?
No, I only have all the audio. I don't
Okay.
know where the transcriptions live.
Well, yeah, hopefully Charlie will know. That would be amazing if we can locate those.
Okay, so Susan will ask Charlie, and if not, we'll get in touch with Charles. He's a techie guy, so we're pretty sure he didn't lose anything.
Yep.
Well, I think we've done our business. Have we done our business? Do we feel good about our year?
Yes. I think it was a nice synopsis of the year and a plan for going forward and not worrying about membership.
Yeah.
We're only going to worry about taking care of. We're going to worry about taking care of the membership,
Yes.
and we'll all be so happy that other people will say, "I want to come be a member too."
Exactly.
That's what we'll have.
And do we need to hunt up the email list of who's on the email? Have we found the email yet of all the people on the?
Who are the members? No, we haven't.
Yeah, oh, okay. So we need to do that too, right?
We have the members mailing list that we do have access to.
Oh, okay. All 85
I think
of
that's
those.
part of what we're checking in with this tech meeting next week, right?
Okay, all right, good.
Oh, shoot, it's next week. Okay, you guys let me know. That's
There's a first meeting next week, and then
okay.
launch the tech project. So
I see.
we-
I was gonna say, I don't know if I'm remembering the date right, but there is a Hub Garden Workday. Is that right? On the 18th? Am I misremembering that?
I think there is on the 18th, yeah.
Which is Saturday.
Yep.
that apropos of something.
Apropos of us as members joining together the church, but then as I was saying it out loud, I realized I don't think I can go to that. So, so I guess apropos of nothing.
Won't be here either.
Just that it, you know, in terms of taking care of our own membership, like moments where we get to like be at the church do seem nice.
Yeah.
Be there together.
Okay.
Flower communion was nice.
And
That was great.
Frank, do you want to repeat your announcement about the film festival now that Mona's here as well?
Sure. This Tuesday, weather permitting, because we do have a rain date, we will have a screening of the Thomas Edison Film Festival, formerly known as Black Mariah Film Festival. And this is being brought to us by the Thomas Edison Film Festival through Jane Stewart-Wald, who is the new executive or fairly new executive director. She received a grant for some community outreach work, and we fall into that category. There will be no charge for this. So we're hoping that we'll have a nice turnout. And I think there was a potluck that was going to be arranged prior to that, Doug?
Yeah, the event starts at 7 with a potluck. And then the films will start to screen around. It's like, obviously, the 18th of June is very close to solstice. So the films won't start until 8:15, when hopefully it will be dark enough for us to actually see.
Yeah. But I think there's only about an hour's worth of films. It's going to be outside. There's about an hour's worth of films, and we reviewed the films that Jane selected. They look interesting, and I think they kind of run a broad gamut of interest that Hub members and First Church members will find, I think, interesting. Social justice, art, some very interesting submissions. So should be good. Hope
So-
you,
Well, you know, I'm available if you need any assistance, any help.
well, we would love for you to be there and to
Know that.
enjoy the
Any help.
films.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
definitely.
definitely Mona. We'll be setting up from 4 o'clock onwards, but I think
That's the 15th, right?
14
Tuesday.
Oh, the 14th?
Tuesday.
but even if
Okay.
you just want to come like an hour or so before Mona and
I'll be
you
glad. Just tell me, I'll be there. You know
help
that.
the potluck setup would be
Yeah,
awesome.
help greet people too.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Okay.
Great. If there's no further business, I think this has been one of the greatest annual meetings we've ever had. I would accept a motion for adjournment.
Ju-
I'm
ju-
moved to
does-
adjourn. What?
I was going to say, does our new board member want to make the
Oh, that's
move?
more symbolic. That's cool.
Myrna, you want to move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to read you from Psalm 90. So we could like end on a like religious, this is from the end of it. It's like, Lord, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, and for as many years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Guys.
See you
guys.
soon.
Okay.
Oh, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Orange has telephone calling to all Orange residents. Maybe we could see about, like, we have events like the one coming up on Tuesday. If we could get on to their phone when they are notifying them, because like on Monday and Wednesday, they notify them that they're passing out food boxes and, you know, different events in the city. So
Yeah,
it's a possibility that we might be able to utilize that. It doesn't cost us anything. And I feel the only thing to do is tell us, well, no, we can't. But it would be good because they called all the residents, you know, of Orange and letting them know different events that's going on.
Frank, can you pass that on to the hub?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Great.
The
Okay.
hub just sent. So the hub has an event on the 21st, and they just got their
Another
funds
event?
via
Okay.
the email, the citywide email. So they
Oh,
certainly
that's
someone
good.
at the hub has that current contact for that person.
Okay. Because this is a calling. They actually call right on the phone.
Yeah,
You know?
no, that's
Imagine.
a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Stay
Bye.
blessed, everyone.
You too, Mona.